how bad is it? How much are you suffering from these bottlenecks that we've seen globally, which are affecting all these OEMs?
I would say, good morning first. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'd say that things are starting to improve across our economy. COVID is hopefully starting to recede, maybe early to say that, but we're starting to see signs of that. The supply chain issues, again, across the industry have become much better. We had seen them much worse at the time of the second wave in India and to some extent in other parts of the world as well. And that's starting to become much better today.
All right. Okay. Well, so what's your outlook then for this year? How will it compare to last year in terms of automotive sales?
I'm going to talk about the industry. As for Mahindra, we're in a silent period now, so I'll focus more on the economy overall and the industry. The outlook for the economy is very positive. The targets are to close the year at 9.5% growth. And next year looks at a 7.5% growth. So both healthy numbers. My sense is it may actually be higher than that. The auto industry also is poised for a very strong rebound because it has been buffeted by a number of factors over the last 2 to 3 years. And we're starting to see a lot more demand. And therefore, I would be very bullish on the auto industry.
Anish, you're talking about how you're more optimistic about those supply chain disruptions. Give us a sense of how much it has improved in terms of backlog in weeks. What is it?
So on that, Haslinda, I would not have information for the industry. So I'm going to hold off on any Mahindra-related information. Would be happy to join after our results and cover more details on that backlog.
How about your EV plans, Anish?
So what we have announced so far on EV is that we will be coming out with a number of models, 5 to 7 models over the next 3 to 4 years. And at the three-wheeler level, we are one of the market leaders today, or in fact, the market leader with a 68% market share. And with four-wheelers, we are poised with a number of born electric products that are going to be coming out. And that will enable us to get back into the leadership position that we've been in for the last 10 years since we've been manufacturing EVs in India.
What's the plan to accelerate your EV transition?
Now, Anish.
The plan to accelerate EV is really about 3 things. As we look at EV adoption in India, it's going to be driven by cost of ownership, by range anxiety or addressing that, and by infrastructure. For three-wheelers, we see all of them in place today. Similarly for two-wheelers, and which is why you're starting to see a huge uptick in 2 and 3-wheelers for electric. For four-wheelers, it is going to take a little longer, but what we see is within the next 3 to 4 years, we should be able to address all of those issues.
Tell me something here, Anish. I mean, we had the state of Maharashtra wanting import duties to be cut for some of these EVs coming from the likes of Tesla, Audi, Rivian, and various others here. What do you expect out of next month's budget here, which could help those, well, you as well, to make that transition towards electric vehicles?
There have already been a number of incentive schemes announced for electric vehicles. So the Auto Performance Linked Incentive Scheme is a very robust one. There's a second that's been announced for battery technology as well. So that already is in place. And EV makers do have a number of incentives now to manufacture in India. In terms of duties, there are various duties besides custom duty as well. And that's something that the government will take a holistic look at some point in time.
Tell me something, Anish, what are you doing on the battery side of things?
On the battery side, battery technology has been evolving. We are still not certain as to what the end state is for battery technology. Lithium-ion today is clearly a front runner. Solid state is a potential as well. And there are a few other formulations as well that could become a winner at some point. So we are watching that closely. But on battery, there are essentially 2 parts. It's manufacture of the battery cell and the mechanics to put it together. In terms of the manufacturing of the battery cell is where the technology will really change. The investments that automakers are making is in terms of How do you put the battery cell together? And then at some point in time in India, we will have to assess, do we get into the manufacture of battery cells? That is a decision we are and other automakers are looking at closely, but we would at least wait for technology to settle down a little before we make that investment.
Anish, give us a sense of your assessment of the Indian economy. Is it set to achieve its targets this year?
It is well set. The one challenge will be to achieve the fiscal deficit target, as the disinvestment has been lower than expected right now. But beyond that, the tax receipts are much higher than expected. We see the economy doing a lot better overall. There's a greater degree of optimism. Manufacturing is higher. The rural sector is doing well. So from all of those aspects, the economy is doing well. With the disinvestment targets coming up, LIC is a big IPO in the offing. With that, things should be a lot better.
But Anish, if you take a look at energy prices, they're surging. And of course, we know that India imports most of its oil. Might that be a risk to India's growth in 2022?
We have seen high energy prices in the past as well. And what that will do is impact government revenue, not as much growth, because there is, in a sense, a buffer for the consumer in terms of what the government charges for excise duties, etc., with petrol and GST. So as oil prices go up, the taxes to some extent come down. And what that will result in is a risk to the fiscal deficit numbers, not as much to the growth numbers. So we see growth still going on without being impacted too much by energy prices, but we do see some risk to the fiscal deficit numbers.
Anish, talk to me about M&A. Are you looking for any bolt-on acquisitions or any more significant mergers in any of the different groups that you have?
So that is, again, a question I'm going to defer till after our earnings release because of a silent period, but happy to talk about other aspects for the economy, the industry.
Anish, the biggest risk for you?
The biggest risk for us is continuing supply chain disruptions. We're looking at a geopolitical world today which has a lot greater level of risk than we've seen before. COVID, again, the hope right now is that it has receded. If it does come back in a stronger fourth wave for us, that could be a risk. But beyond that, we are starting to see a lot more optimism in terms of things falling in place, the economy going well. So at this point, if I were to look at the balance, I would see a lot more opportunity than risk.